use the texture image for the Campbell soup. All right, so I'm going to go number one right here. I'm going to delete the cube. I'm going to drag the image of the Campbell soup can that we will be copying. So it's the classic look right there. And then we will also use this label right here to wrap it around. And the later part of the demo is that we will be using this apple skin right here to model an apple using curve. Okay, so I will be kind of deleting this now right here, so because we just want to kind of show you that. All right, so this one we'll use, I know it's in perspective shot, kind of like an isometric shot, 45-degree kind of angle, all right, or 30-degree angle. And we'll just kind of base it off the diameter right here. So I will press N for the side bar right here and kind of zero out the location for this one so it's centered. I leave the rotation at 90 as is. Okay, so we will get a cylinder for this. So I will get an object, add an object mesh cylinder. The cylinder starts off as 32 already, so I think that's once we smooth this out, shade smooth, it looks pretty smooth. Okay, so and what I'll do also is while the cylinder is selected right now, I'm going to go here to the data tab, going to normals, and I'm going to turn on auto smooth. So that way we see the whatever's supposed to be sharp as rigid, and then whatever is supposed to be soft. Okay, and this one with shade smooth turn on. The default one is shade flat. This is what it looks like with shade flat. You see all the vertices that makes up the cylinder. So I'm going to go to shade smooth. All right, I'm going to go back to the front viewport here. All right, and you can press number one on the numpad, and I'm going to simply scale this so that we have the kind of the same, almost the same as that one, and then scale it along the z-axis here to kind of get the same height right there, relatively almost the same height, right? And we're going to do basically minimal modeling on this one, since we only need the bottom right here, and then we need kind of like the top with the lip, and then it's kind of cascading design on the lid to make it rigid. Okay, so it makes the metal stronger. And the bottom one, Gary, do you remember what the bottom of a Campbell soup looks like? Does it look like the top? Can you research that real quick, and you can just show it on your screen? Should have looked at that before. All right, so let's say that's the one right there, and I'm going to move the drawing a little bit higher right here, just so that we could see that. Okay, and then we just need to create this lip. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to hit tab here. I'm going to go to the polygon selection. Okay, I'm going to select the top here and the bottom. Okay, by selecting both, I can then before I do that, sorry, I'm going to go to object mode. Okay, I'm going to go to object mode with the can selected. Okay, I'm going to go to object and then apply all transform. Okay, that will zero out our scale. Actually, we just need to apply scale, but let's say you want to zero out everything, you do all transform, but this one just scale. By doing this, we're kind of telling Blender this cylinder reset it back to the original shape. Okay, so now it doesn't know that we stretch it up. We applied the transform scale, so now it's 111. So we're not going to have any issues regarding extruding parts of it. All right, so I'm going to select the top and the bottom at the same time, right? I don't know if you guys remember the boombox. What we did here is press extrude. Okay, and then I'm going to right click to cancel. So I didn't really extrude it by moving it, but there's extrusion in there. Okay, there's actually two tops and two bottoms at this point. In order for those to move in both direction, we can't use the move tool because then they'll move like so. All right, so if we use the scale tool right here along the z-axis, okay, so it's going to show up here. I'm going to scale it a bit. All right, so that's if I go to the top, so that's the top lid and then the bottom lid. Okay, maybe a little bit more. All right, just show it to me here, Gary. What does it look like, the bottom? All right, so that one right there, and then let's work at the, so it's kind of the same as the top. All right, so it's so that it's both rigid, I'm assuming. All right, so here, what we'll do here is I'm going to do a loop cut for the top and the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do the loop cut. You can use the loop cut tool right here. I'm just going to do, um, when you click that, you can position on a horizontal line, then you get a vertical cut. So, and then vice versa. If you position your cursor on a horizontal cut, you get a vertical cut. Vertical line, you get a horizontal cut. So I'm going to click one right here. So I got one right there. I'm going to do another one right here. Keyboard shortcut, if you want to do this manually, would be Control R. Okay, so we have that. And now I will turn off the tool by going to the select tool right here. Otherwise, you'll get stuck there forever. Okay, so what I'll do is I want to select this edge. I'm on edge selection all the way around. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option key and click, and it selects that all the way around. I'm going to do the same thing for the ring I added down here. So instead of just clicking Alt click, I'm going to add Shift so that it adds to the selection, and then Alt, and then click that line so both are selected. Now we're going to bevel so that we kind of get that kind of bump effect right there. So I'm going to right click here and then bevel edges. Okay, and then it's going to ask me to drag the mouse. There it is. I drag the mouse a little bit. Okay, all right, maybe up to that point right there. Okay, so both is happening on both sides right here. So I'm just going to zoom in here so you could see the top. So that's what we did right there, and we probably want to add a little bit more segment. Okay, maybe two more. All right, there we go. So that we, it looks a little bit smooth. And then what we can do with this one is we can, well, we can just leave it like that. I mean, we can bump it up if we want to, but we can kind of scale it. Or let me click undo on that one. We'll click undo. What we're going to do is scale it first. Okay, so both are still selected. So this is before the bevel. Okay, so I'm just going to press S right now. So if I press S, they both start scaling from the center point, right? So if you remember the boombox, we did something with this so that it doesn't scale from the center. They need to scale with their own selection. So we have to change where median, what used to be the median pivot point, we're going to go with individual origin just for this one. Okay, so I'm going to hit individual origins, press S, and then scale in, out, sorry. So it kind of looks like it protruded a little bit like that. Okay, that's what it looks like. And both top and bottom are still selected. All right, so now I'm going to go to median point right there because you work on that one 99% of the time. So I'm going to right click, bevel edge. Now when we do that, okay, so it has that extrusion already. So when I bevel it, it automatically curves it already. Okay, and then on our segments, we just added 3 segments, and then when I drag the mouse, it did that one. So both of this one should look pretty close. All right, excellent. So now we're going to work at the top, then we'll work at the bottom. Okay, we are done basically with this point, with this one at this point here. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this one like so. I'm going to go to the edge, polygon face mode, select the top right here, and then we're going to create this ridge right here. Okay, so I'm going to press I so that that creates the lip. Okay, so I'm going to press I. There it is. Okay, inset polygon or inset faces. Then I'm going to do extrude, but I'm going to extrude down. So E, then we're going to go lower right there probably. It's just enough so that it'll catch your can opener, right? So you don't want that too deep because the blade needs to touch it. So now we're going to do this part right here. So that's I, inset. It's kind of eyeballing where that would be, all right? And on this one, and then we're going to press E to extrude down. but that thing is slanted, so we will have to press S right here to kind of make that thing slant. So that's that one. So we need to create this part now. So that's another I in set faces. There you go. Then we press E again to extrude down, then S to slant it. Okay, so we have that one, this one. Okay, so one more. Press I, E, S. All right, so that's the top part of the can done. And the bottom one, it looks like it's the rings that are kind of protruding a little bit up. Okay, it's kind of like softer. So I'll do the same thing here. So we're at the bottom now. If you look at the reference photo for this one, it looks like they're like circular speed bumps. All right, so I'm gonna press I right there, so I can create the bottom lip, and we're gonna press E. Okay. So now at this point we're gonna have to create those rings. So I'm gonna press I. So that's the first one. I'm gonna press I again. That's gonna be that's the first ring right there. I'm gonna press I again, and another one right here. I'm just pressing I, and then I think there's 3 rings, right, Gary?
Yes.
All right, here we go. So we got 3 rings right there, and then drag one right, another one. So these are what we need to focus on right here. So I'm just going to press Control R on each one. So yeah, I get ring for one, that one right there, and then this one Control R again. Then here Control R. Now I need to select all 3 rings. So that's the same as the other one before. So Shift, Alt click, Shift Alt click, Shift Alt click. Okay, and then we need to lower those a little bit. So I'm just going to use the Move tool along the blue or Z axis here. So we got them kind of going down like so. Just a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to right click them to bevel and drag the mouse. There we go. So this is just the bottom. We probably don't need 3 segments there. 2 segments probably will be just fine. So now let's take a look. So now we see those very familiar looking ridges on cans, right? So sometimes you see that at the top and some of them, but we're just kind of copying this one here. All right, so how do we add more kind of detail to this so it looks like when we hold this thing, it's not gonna cut our fingers, okay? So the Campbell soup, we're done. So what I'm gonna do with this selected and press delete so it's out of the way. Let's just kind of add more elements to this. But let me just save real quick in case we crash and I don't have to redo the whole thing. Okay. Okay. It's probably on desktop. Can. All right. Okay, so I'm going to select it, go to edit mode, and then we will just simply add bevel. Okay. So all the things that would need some sort of kind of smoothing on the edge so it's not too sharp. So I'm in the edge selection. All right. Alt click to select the whole thing. So I'm going to go Shift Alt click. So all this kind of steps we will soften. Okay. And the only way these things would have the exact same bevel amount when they're selected is that we did the apply transform scale. Without that, you'll it won't be uniform. All right, so I got all those. So I'm just going to right click now, bevel the edge, and then just kind of very minute. All right, you don't want this. We don't want too much of this, just so that it will have those kind of bevel effect. Maybe 3 on those. And let's take a look. All right, so he gives that kind of softer look. Did it add too much geometry? Maybe it did. So let me click undo on that one. Before we try that, let me just add a modifier here called bevel. What it does, it adds kind of like fake bevel. All right, it probably did too much on this one because our can definitely went a lot smoother here. So I will lessen the amount. So I'm going to hold down shift and drag this down so it goes into tiny numbers. All right, it says 0.004, 0.00, maybe 0.00, 0.008, or 0.005. All right, I think that's enough right there. So it kind of gives it that softer uh, look right there. All right, so there's the can. All we need to do now is add the label. Okay, so let's give it a material. So it'll have that kind of aluminum look. So we know for sure it's going to be metallic. So I'm going to go 1 on that one. I'm going to go to preview mode right here. We're probably going to darken our can just a bit right there. And roughness, all right, let's say that would work for now. Okay, we don't know until we add the lights, then it will kind of change. Okay, so now we need to select the other parts that would require the label. So I'm going to go to shading here. I'm going to go hit tab. I'm going to turn on my screencast on this side. All right, so we want to select the polygons going all the way around here. So that would be polygon mode. Okay, and I'm going to select 1. Okay, and I'm going to hit alt, press alt, and then click this line here. It selects it all the way around. All right, so while that thing is selected right there, we're going to go to the shader tab. We're going to add a new material. So let's call this one metal. Okay, and we click plus and then new. We're going to call this one label. This is supposed to be paper, right? So we don't want that kind of reflective, so we'll give it kind of like very rough value right there. And then this is that shader, the label. So we're going to assign that. As you can see now, it looks white because we just assigned a new material, white, very rough. Okay, but we want to add the label here. So I'm going to go to my downloads where that thing is located, and then textures for class. And I'm going to drag this label down here. Okay, and I'm simply going to replace the base color with this one. So color to base color. All right, so there it is. Okay, it's wrapped all the way around, but it's not the correct wrapping yet. So we have to do some UV editing, but it's nicely positioned already. Okay, so now that that's connected right there, I'm simply going to go to UV editing tab right here. And as you can see, if I go to my color preview mode, and if I look here, whatever selection we got is down here. Okay, so we simply go to the move tool along the y-axis on this one, drag that all the way to the bottom of the label. Make sure you don't miss. There we go. And our soup is now done. Okay, it even has the seam, and it's pretty good look on that seam because it's actually misaligned, so it's actually pretty good. All right, so there's that. We are done with our Campbell soup, and it's considered low poly, right? Considering another thing we have to add here, since we're animating this, let's take a look. If you look at the previous lesson where we were animating the Coke can, this would give us some really bad deformation. If I add a simple deform on this thing, we go with bend. All right, even with XYZ, it doesn't matter. Look, it's not bending correctly because it doesn't have. If I go to wireframe mode, there is no segments on the body. All right, so let me turn off the deform here. So what we need to do on this one is just kind of prepare it, right? So I'm going to go to the front viewport. I'm going to go to edit mode, and I'm simply going to add some loop cuts. So I'm going to do Control R, and then when I scroll the mouse while in loop cut, we're going to have to create probably something like that. It's fine. That's super smooth bending right there. So I'm going to let go. Okay, and then it's going to ask you where you want to position those rings. Simply right click to cancel the movement, you want them at the centered, and if you kind of miss scroll your mouse, you can still change it here. So let's go with 15. 15 should be fine. Go here, go to object mode, and then turn on my bend. There it is. So now it's actually bending. All right, so now if you watch the video, you're going to have to watch the previous video of the Coke can, how to rig this Campbell soup for your project 3. I mean project 2 going into project 3. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the simple deform. This one is good to go. I'm going to save it. Okay, so the next one is where we'll model an apple. So instead of a ball, you're bouncing a ball, you're going to be bouncing an apple. All right. So how do we model an apple? There's several ways, but you already know probably how to do that using polygon mode. All right. So let's do something that you're not quite familiar with yet. All right. So I'm going to start a new scene here. So new. I'm going to go front viewport. Very important. You're in the front viewport when you do this lesson. Okay. I'm going to delete this cube, and then I'm going to get a curve. Okay, your curve will look a little bit different with mine because I have extra objects on. Okay, but what you're looking for is a path right here. So add curve and a path. Okay, once you do that, it will have this horizontal line with multiple points if I go to edit mode. Okay, this is simply a curve that you move the points and then kind of like a vector in Illustrator. Okay, but I'm going to go back to object mode. What I want for this one to be standing up, so that would be turning on screencast first so you can see what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to go R, Y, 90. So I'm rotating it y-axis 90 degrees. So that would be the same thing as typing 90 degrees on the y-axis here. So just standing. Okay, so I'm going to go hit tab to go to edit mode. And what's important here is that both the top and the bottom points, they don't get moved. Okay, if you move those, then you're going to have a hole in your model. Okay, so this is the same thing as lathing, L-A-T-H-E. All right, so it's a woodworking technique where they put it on this turning machine, and then they chisel the wood, and you can make balusters, all sorts of things that you can create in 360. Okay, but we're lathing this top and bottom. So I'm going to select all these 3 points right here, and I'm going to drag them on the left side of the screen. Okay, and I'm in the front viewport. So by doing that, you can already see that we're getting kind of like an apple shape right here, or a tomato shape, depending on how you want to take a look at it. Okay, all right, so there's that. There's our apple. I do want another point between these 2 points here, so that I can have a little bit more detail at the top, right? So what I'll do is right-click it and subdivide. So by doing that, it added a point in the middle. Okay, so now I can kind of go a little bit more freedom with my apple design, and then maybe I'll do the same thing here for the bottom. Select this point and that point by holding down Shift. Right-click, subdivide. Just one cut right there, and I'm going to move that kind of like so, and then all right, so there's our apple right there. Okay, and I'm going to go press object mode, and you're going to see this in 3D, and if you're not happy with the shape, you can still edit it. All right, so let's go to the modifier that would make this an apple. Okay, so let's go to modifier tab. We're going to add the screw modifier. Okay, it's not going to look like an apple first, and don't freak out. The axis should be X. There it is. There's our apple right there. Okay, and if you're wondering why doesn't it look smooth or whatnot, this is not a polygon yet. This is still a curve. So if I go back to number 1 and then I hit tab, I still have access to those points. So now, let's say your apple, you want a little bit more of an apple look instead of whatever it is that you made. Okay, then you still have this option right here to change shape. Okay, so once we convert this into a polygon, you can no longer kind of edit it this simpler way. It's going to be, massive. Okay, so let's add some modifier to this called subdivision surface to kind of smooth it. But if we do that, this will be in high polygon, because if you take a look, this is really dense right now. You see it? There's a lot of lines in there. So what we'll do is simplify it. Okay, so with the curve or the apple still selected, go to the curves tab right here. I'm going to click the curves tab, and then I will lower the resolution here. The default is 12, so each time I click down on this one, it's simplifying the apple, but it's still keeping its general shape. So let's go to maybe 4 is fine right there. Okay, it has lowered it significantly, and as you can see here, remember I told you not to touch those or move them, because if you do, then you kind of create like a hole right there. Okay, so let me go to my preview mode or solid mode here. All right, so there's that. Okay, and now we're ready to convert this to polygon so we could actually use it. So I'm going to go to edit mode, to object mode. With the apple selected, I'm going to convert it into a mesh by right-clicking it. Okay, and then I'm going to click on convert to mesh. When we do that, we lose all that line, but now it's polygon. So now we can add more modeling to this. Okay, but let's add the texture first. Okay, so I'm going to right click it and shade smooth. All right, making sure we have the shade smooth option there. Okay, but it should look fairly smooth. All right, and we can now start. Let me see the flat. Okay, just want to show you what it looks like flat. That's what it looks like. All right, so shade smooth. Let's give it a texture. Okay, then we'll modify it so that it's not too perfect. Okay, so let's go to shading. There's the apple. Okay, let's give it a shader. So let's go here, new. The apple, depending on where you buy it, well, I mean, in nature provides the natural wax of apple. So if you actually grew your own apple, and then you can rub it on some fabric, then you can kind of shine it because it has that wax to protect it. But we have to kind of agree that they're quite reflective. They're kind of shiny, okay, once you do that. So there's that roughness right there. Now let's drag here our apple texture, which is a simple rectangular shape. So I'm going to click and drag it here. Okay, apple skin, color to base color. All right, there it is. It looks like a pineapple. All right, so because we need to change our UV editing. So let's go to UV editing with the apple. In our edit mode, I'm going to press A to select everything. As you can see, it thinks it's this massive tall object because it came from a curve. And that's simple to fix because we just simply select all of it right here and scale it until it looks like that shape. Okay, let's take a look here what's happening. There it is. I'm going to go to move, position that. That's very good guess with the scale. That's like almost 1-to-1. All right, so there it is. Can you make it better? Of course, there's a lot of things that we can kind of improve upon here. There's a lot of stretching, but for a crash course in how to make the apple, I think it'll work just fine. Okay, maybe it's too dense right here. It's everything is kind of is that squiggly one because it's all compressed, but that's fine right there. We can fix this. We can do a texture edit, but for our animation project, this should be fine. Okay, so let's go back to our layout or modeling right here with the apple looking like this apple. I mean, if you want, you can add bump map, but there's really no need, just so that we don't use a sphere for the animation. Okay, we can go to number 1 right here. If you press tab to go to edit mode, we have proportional editing, and this is strictly optional. So this is just for those that are freaking out that the apple looks like it's too perfect, kind of like those fake apple that you find in dinner table. All right, so I'm going to click on proportional edit. It's right here. Okay, Once you click that and then you select a point, when you press G, okay, you have this reticle, and then you can change the mouse, the reticle size by scrolling your mouse, and then when you move your mouse without clicking, it grabs like an area. You see it? So you can definitely deform your apple based on this technique right here. So if I make that bigger, just so that it doesn't look like a perfect apple. So I'm gonna go move that up a little bit. Select one down here, press G, move that down a bit. I'm gonna go to number 3. Okay, select that, G, then here, G. Another way to do it is a little bit more kind of advanced right here. If I go to object mode, if you go to sculpt mode and you go grab tool, grab brush, it'll do the same thing. Okay, so simply change your radius or press F and then drag your mouse. And then when you click on a surface on the apple, you could do this actually in 3D and kind of give it this minor imperfection just so that it doesn't look like. I'm going to go to number 7 here at the top so you don't freak out that it's kind of like a, alright, not perfect apple. And if you're I'm going to go to object mode here, and if you don't want to see all those kind of faceted option here, you can add a modifier, subdivision surface, level render, yep, I mean, and it'll smooth it out. Okay, if you turn that off, that's what it originally looks like. Okay, then you can, but if your computer is struggling by adding this subdivision surface modifier, don't do it. You can just use the other one. So I'm going to save this one, and then we're going to call this one instead of a can. That will be the apple. All right, I'm going to save that Blender file. Now we have these 2 objects right here. So you can model your own. So something that's very similar. You can't use the Coke can. You cannot use the Pokeball. You're going to have to model something very similar to a round shape and a cylindrical shape for your project 3. Okay, so but this 2, if you just model this 2 following this one, those would also work. But for those who wants to kind of have a little bit more freedom on the object that they want to do project 3, then you're welcome to model something that's a ball shape, like an orange or a pear, or other fruits. Okay, and then or a cylindrical object, but not the Coke can and the Pokeball, because we already did those projects, and that ends the demo.